Hey Community Life Church, welcome. As we jump into our house churches tonight, I wanted to give you a quick recap on chapter 5 of the Tangible Kingdom to kick things off. By now you may be discovering some new things about the gospel and about what it means to be a follower of Christ. Living out is where it all meets the real world. Living out is the natural and deliberate process of living among, listening to, and loving people with the desire to connect them to our Christian community. As we learn to live out the gospel, we grapple with the bottom line issue of our willingness to take responsibility for our relationships with others and whether we'll let the mission of God dictate the purpose and schedule of our lives. Inside that tension of living out is our own ambitions, our own faith, our fear, and our frailty. But we're not alone in this wrestle. In the Bible, there was this guy named Moses who also wrestled with God about following God's plan and purposes for his life. In chapter 3 and 4 of Exodus, we see the story of Moses encountering God in the burning bush. In it, God said to Moses, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I heard crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" The story goes on as Moses continues to wrestle back and forth with God about what he is being asked to do and the people he's being asked to reach out to. At the end of all of it, Moses makes this statement, "God, please send someone else to do it." We're going to pause at this moment and answer a couple questions. How do you relate with Moses when you think about living out your own calling? And describe a time when you said to God, "Please God, send someone else." So the story of Moses shows us that it's quite natural to disregard God's calling for our lives. Despite our desire to be used by God, we often get paralyzed by insecurity. Sometimes it's due to a lack of experience. Other times it's based on our own failures or personal issues of brokenness. But God is not caught off guard by any of these. In a moment, we're going to have you read through 2 Corinthians together. And I want you to notice that the mark of true ministry is not perfection or results. Paul calls us jars of clay, showing us that he knew that imperfect people would be responsible for sharing, showing, and inviting people into the kingdom life. So you can open your Bibles to Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1 to 12. So it's normal to feel some tension related to living alone. Living on a mission can be challenging. It isn't always immediately clear what we're supposed to do. For some, that tension is important to remind ourselves that keeping track of the result is not our job. But in fact, our main concern is to live in such a way that the good news is clearly expressed through our lives. We trust the work of God to do the rest.